There's a beautiful story found in the sutras. Most of you will be familiar with the Wheel of Life. It originated as a pictorial teaching aid. And Shakyamuni Buddha instructed that the Wheel of Life should be drawn on the wall near the door of Buddhist temples. And so even in our small log cabin temple, we have a depiction of the Wheel of Life in the jaws of Yama. And it's interesting to know where this came from. The story is that during the Buddha's life, there were two kings who often exchanged presents with each other. And one lived in central India, and one lived further away. The one that lived further away had sent his friend a very precious suit of armor as a gift. And so this other king was perplexed about how he could repay his friend's kindness. And so his ministers suggested that he send a painting of the image of Shakyamuni Buddha. And so this king asked Shakyamuni Buddha for his permission for him to sit for a portrait. And the Buddha agreed, but he suggested that he include a painting of the Wheel of Life as well. So the paintings were done and sent to the king who lived in the distant land, and he was very pleased to receive it. And he was so delighted with the picture of Shakyamuni Buddha, but he asked many, many questions about the Wheel of Life, and it is said that he attained enlightenment in that very life through understanding the Wheel of Life. And so we're just about to embark in Volume 3 on the 12 links, which are a very, very interesting collection of teachings, similar to what we've been doing, actually, talking about true suffering and true origin of suffering. But the 12 links arranges it in a nice, sequential way for us to understand how we are a self-perpetuating machine. And it's very, very useful to us to think about what says samsara really is. In Volume 3, it says, samsara means to be reborn with karmically conditioned aggregates. Specifically, it is our 5 contaminated, appropriated aggregates. So it's our body and mind. It's not an environment. It's not a place necessarily, although it can include our environment. But primarily, we have our own unique samsara. And so I thought it might be useful to just look at one way that we can think about the 12 links. So some of this will be very familiar. And I like this description. I think it's from the Compendium of Knowledge. 2 sets of cause and results. So the first, what would you say? The first cause is self-grasping ignorance, right? We hear this a lot, that self-grasping ignorance is the root of samsara. And it's a particular type of ignorance. It's not just ignorance in general. It's not just self-grasping ignorance. It's not just grasping at the self of a person. And it's not even just the view of the personal I, but it's the innate view of the personal I that we've had with us since beginningless time. So that's the self-grasping ignorance that then motivates all of our actions. And so the second link is formative action. And it's interesting to question, well, why don't we have afflictions in there? We always talk about self-grasping ignorance gives rise to afflictions and then formative actions. I think it's because actually we could have an affliction there, or we could have a virtuous state of mind as well. As long as it's motivated by self-grasping ignorance, it's contaminated, and it has the potential, as long as all the causes and conditions are together, to project a rebirth. So formative actions, and then the next one is consciousness. So it's not consciousness in general, it's a particular type of it's a particular moment of consciousness that the seed from this action is placed on the mind stream. And there are different levels of that consciousness, but for now we'll just leave it simple. So these are what are known as projecting causes. They can project a rebirth when causes and conditions come together. So projecting causes. So what is it that this seed that's placed here on this one moment of consciousness, this karmic seed that has been conditioned by the 4 branches, the basis and the attitude and the performance and the completion, that seed has the potential to project a rebirth. So that rebirth is, or these things are called projected results. You can tell I've been using my arms today. Can't write. Okay. So projected results include name and form. And form is the form aggregate, or the body. Name includes the 4 mental aggregates. So name and form. The seed that's placed on this moment of consciousness has the potential to link up the karmic mind stream with a new rebirth, a new body, and the mind that can be supported by that kind of body. So let's see. Form. 6 sources. So name and form, help me out if I don't have this quite right. Name and form is just the first few moments of conception until the 6 sources are complete and able to operate. Did I get that right, Venerable? And so 6 sources picks up from the end of name and form until the 6 sources are developed, and 6 sources meaning our eye faculty, eye sense faculty, ear sense faculty, nose taste, touch faculty, and mental faculty can actually make contact with an object. And of course, contact brings together an object, a previous moment of mind, and one of those sense faculties. And in the very next moment, contact gives rise to feeling. The reason this is so important is because as soon as we have contact, then we have feeling. What happens when we have feeling? When it's a pleasant feeling, we're often running, wanting more, creating attachment. When we have a negative feeling, an unpleasant feeling, we create aversion, and we're perpetuating the whole cycle again. So that's why these particular mental factors, I think, were highlighted. So what's interesting about this formula is that we can interrupt it. So these are projected causes and projected effects, but it doesn't mean that this seed will ever give rise to its result. To bring it into fruition, then we need establishing causes and the established results. So this is like a nice shorthand, I think, for thinking about these 12 links and how this is really describing our life. So as soon as we have craving in our mind, or attachment, any kind of attachment, craving in our mind, chances are good we're going to follow up with some kind of action. We're going to go after something that we're attached to. But this craving is talking about craving that happens very near to the end of our life that is going to nourish one of these seeds on our mind stream and start to ripen it, start to get it to come to the fore, to be able to propel all these projected results. So craving gets started, and then clinging. This is stronger craving. Clinging gets activated so that it's preparing this seed, one of the countless seeds on our mind stream, to be able to give rise to. These are like in a potential form at this stage. This is just what they possibly can project. But the establishing results are what actually gets established. So, oh, sorry, yes, 8, 9, thank you. Hard to think and walk at the same time. Okay. So craving gives rise to stronger craving, which is clinging, and that has ripened one of these seeds to the point where it's just on the verge of giving rise to its established result. Okay, so when existence, which is an action, existence is just at the verge of ripening that karmic seed, the next moment it gives rise to birth. And then in the second moment, there's aging, which eventually leads to death. So I find this shorthand, or this summary of these 12 links to be very, very helpful. Projected causes have the potential to give rise to these projected results, but they can be interrupted if we can stop the craving. But once craving gets activated, especially at the time of death, and then that craving is exaggerated into clinging, Then existence is ripening that karmic seed, and then after the bardo, or actually there's two phases, the bardo and then, won't go into that. Then there's birth, there's aging and death. So I just thought to summarize that for today, and certainly food to think about, and Venable's going to go into a lot more detail in the coming weeks in volume 3.